It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this whole thing. It is officially like the end of the year for real this time. This is our Game of the Year podcast. That means that we're going to be picking our 10 favorite games of the year as a website. We got the whole crew here. I, of course, am Jeff Grubb, your host of the GamesBeat Decides podcast. And with me is, let's start up here on the top right if you're watching on the video. Rowan, go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Rowan Kaiser, PC guest post editor.
And we got Jason here.
Howdy, Jason Wilson, managing editor.
He's also in the he's in the big picture. We're gonna put him front and center because he's so pretty. And then we got Dean up there on the top left. You're the prettiest one of us all. And then Dean, say hi, Dean.
Hello, Dean Takahashi, lead writer for GamesBeat and organizer of the GamesBeat Summit Conference, April 23rd, 24th, 2019 in Los Angeles.
And that is his full legal name, in case you were wondering. And then we have Mike down there on the bottom left, rounding it out once again.
I'm Mike, and I'm the actual prettiest one.
Mike, what's behind your tarp back there?
Oh, just my creepy sex dungeon stuff. Nobody
Cool.
needs to see
All right. I was worried it was a CRT TV. I'm glad to hear it's not.
Mike is in the center for me. I don't know why you're saying
Oh, okay. Well, it must be different for everybody. I don't know. You could probably rearrange it however you want. If you want to put me center, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Nobody wants to be centered, Jeff.
All right. We can get on with this. So like I said, this is our top 10 games of the year. So we have a list. And if you're watching the video, if you're not, there's a video version of this. It's going to be on probably YouTube, maybe Facebook, a few other places. It has our list of like games so far. There are, I think, 30 games here. And now that we're here, I'm like, man, how do we do this? Like, how do we even cut this down to 10 and then start arranging stuff? I guess what we can do is maybe...
We're going to need some people to be sensible now. If you know.
Just declare Red Dead as...
No, okay. That reminded me. This reminds me. My opening gambit here. It is, look, Red Dead's not on my top 14 games that I just got done writing. I will be okay putting it in the top 10 as long as it's not number one. Can we just make that deal right now?
I'm the only other person even. Well, maybe I'm the only other person who kind of likes it, and it wasn't in my top 10.
And
maybe Rowan has opinions about
But
Rowan is like avoided.
Go ahead, Rowan.
Rowan has avoided like all of the big blockbuster games, so Rowan has no opinion on your Gods of Wars and your Tombs Raider and all those things. I will let you guys duel to the death at the top and get my little strategy games in at the bottom.
That sounds good. That sounds like a plan. So, Dean, would you be okay with that sort of agreement where it's like we can get into the top 10 somewhere as long as you agree right now it's not number one?
maybe God of War is number one then.
Okay, all right. So we can have that discussion later, maybe. For now, okay. So that works for me. That's a good place to start from. I think where we should go from here though is maybe we got, like I said, we got a bunch of games here. Everyone could see them. What we should do is maybe just start cutting some stuff, and we could talk about it in the process. Does anyone want to go first? Is there a game on here that jumps out to you that you're like, I know I don't want that in the top 10?
Well, Mario Tennis Aces.
Yeah, I agree. Why is that on here?
Okay, so yeah, fair enough. I like Mario Tennis Aces. It's definitely a game that when I first was playing it, I thought could make it onto my personal top 10, just because it was really some really solid tennis gameplay with a lot of depth and a lot of complexity, and it felt like a fighting game where there was all these counters to any sort of strong strategy that you would try. And then everyone else stopped playing it, so I did too. And it's not on my top 14. Although now that we're talking about it, maybe I'll go put it in at 15 and we'll make that a top 15 instead. But yes, we can cut that, and I'm totally okay with that. I wish, I don't know what they could have done differently for that one to make it stand out, to make it have a chance. But yeah, I'm okay with cutting it. Someone just put it down there at the bottom and delete this row.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to bring up Mega Man 11 because I love it so much, and I love Mega Man so much, but I don't know if anybody else has any strong feelings about that, so I'm not going to, be fighting super hard for this to get on the list. I mean, it's on my list for sure, but if other people don't have strong feelings about it,
Okay. Yep, we can move it down then. All right. Dean, why don't you go next?
Yeah.
We got you here in.
I thought that 1111 Memories Retold would make my list, but the story didn't quite hold together as well as I. This was a nice, sort of memories of World War One kind of piece that is made by the guy who made the what was that Ubisoft game anyway. So it didn't quite sort of pan out as I expected. So I would take that off.
Okay, I don't really know what that game is. While I'm doing that, if you want to just kind of give a quick synopsis.
It's about a British soldier in World War One comes into contact with a German soldier, and each of them has a pet as well. There's a bird and there's a cat, and you can play these characters and switch between them during the whole game. There is a strong sort of peace message in the game, and there's also a nice twist in this story. But for me, the ending didn't really come together.
Fair enough. Let's move on. Jason, do you have one on here? And you don't have to pick one of your own. I think so far most people have been picking their own. But if you have one on here that you want to try to challenge at the very least, go ahead.
Yeah, I think as much as I enjoyed The Messenger, I think we could drop it off this list.
Ooh.
I'm right there with you. I like The Messenger, but I don't. I realize kind of after giving myself some time, I didn't end up loving it. Mike, though, feel free to feel if you want to try to save it now.
I'm the only one who loves it. I love it, but
tell us why you love it, just so we can get that out onto the record.
I thought that it was a combination of the platforming feeling very good. I love the mechanic of you have to hit something in the air to jump again. Just always felt really satisfying. I thought it was actually surprisingly clever and kind of funny.
Good writing.
Very good boss fights. Boss fights, easy for me to say. But just all around, as far as these kind of games go, I really enjoyed it, and it was also a lot of game. I liked the kind of twist where it turned into a Metroidvania towards the end. So yeah, just had a great time with that game the whole way through.
But okay to move it down, you think?
Yeah. If no one else feels that strongly about it, that's fine.
It would be number 11 or 12 on my list. Really close to my 10.
It wasn't in my top 5. It was in my top 10. But so yeah,
I think it could
like Mega Man more than that. If I was going to make us think about
Fair
one,
enough.
it would be Mega Man.
I would also take out Donut County, which I put up there. I think it was a fun and entertaining game.
That's a really good one.
Your little you go around with the hole and you start making things fall into it. It gets bigger and bigger. It's like a Katamari concept, I guess. But the story was kind of just plain silly. So there was,
that's a good thing about it, though.
Held it together and made it, made you want to keep on playing it.
I was definitely wanted to keep on playing to see what BK was going to say next. He was a very funny character, well written character, but I didn't fall in love with it or anything. I think like a lot of people did. So I have moved it down, and I'm okay with that, unless anyone has any reservations. Okay, Rowan, I think you're up. If you have one on this list that you're ready to cut.
It looks like none of us have strong feelings about Mutant Year Zero. I just started playing it, and I'm liking it. It probably deserves to be mentioned here, but I have not played it enough to say this should definitely be one of our top 10 games. It came out real late in the year, so that might just be an unfortunate function of timing, but it has a temporary recommendation from me, but it doesn't look like we have any kind of consensus on it.
I think
go ahead, Jason.
The consensus is we haven't played enough of it, but the ones of us who've played it really like it so far.
Yeah, it's the one I've been playing right now when I'm not trying to figure out Obra Dinn, and I'm loving it quite a bit. But I'm in the same exact situation where I'm only a couple missions in, and I've been restarting those missions quite a lot, just making sure I fully understand what I'm doing to maximize and optimize my playthrough, so that I can, once it starts getting harder, I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm in that same situation where I'm just I like this, but who knows? It could go south at any moment, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, like Rowan said, I would give it a recommendation. It's definitely going to be something where, as we get into 2019, it might be one of those where it's oh yeah, I wish I definitely played more of that, and I would have put it higher on my list. As it is, it is on my top 14. I think it's number 12 right now, just from what I've played. Okay, yeah, let's moving on. Jason, could you handle moving stuff down on the list for me?
Yeah.
As we talk and stuff, that would just help me kind of keep some brain space clear. Okay, so Mutant Year Zero is moving down. All right, that means it's time for me to pick one. Oh yeah, Detroit Become Human.
Oh, he goes on the attack there.
I don't. Is it? I see. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's like a top 5 game for you, Dean. So I'm not sure if that's an attack. If it is, let me know and we'll talk it out.
No, it's more like number 9 on my list.
Yeah. So I think you're like the strongest advocate for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth talking about a little bit. I
So,
don't
yeah.
quite understand why so many people were against it. You know, is it the walking simulator kind of criticism, or
I think it's just that I think a lot of people have had enough of David Cage's shtick at this point, where
Well,
he's still sending out the blank 3,000 page script to let people know, look how many words are in this game, and like he's done that stunt a couple times now, and it's just none of it's impressive to me anymore.
You know, the games have gotten progressively better though since, like, say, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and this one, like, it had an amazing, face technology. So these characters all look, completely low-capped humans, right? and that was a important part of the experience. And then they added this flow chart into all of the decisions, and you could see just how many sort of branching points were in every single chapter, and how the stories could turn out very, very differently if you made different choices, or you failed to execute on one of those quick time events fast enough or whatever. So that sort of set up a much better sort of way to live up to what his goal is of creating these interactive cinematic stories. Right?
I think it's possible that it's one of the better David Cage games for sure.
Is the story, like, the last thing is, like, is this story actually good? And that's where I think some of the critics pointed out this, sort of the obvious sort of Rosa Parks sort of discrimination against robots scene that he probably shouldn't have thrown into that game. And so people got so upset about, like, you're obviously making this a parable, like, of how we were mean to black people in the old days, and now we're mean to androids. It's the same thing, right? And I think, there were much stronger parts to the whole experience and story than just that. And so I think, like, there were times when I thought it was much better than Westworld, right?
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of, like,
strongly about this one.
I don't think anyone necessarily believes that Westworld is also a great, like, among the greatest, like, android fiction either. It's an entertaining show, but
It's so
I think-
weird, right? Yeah.
I think
No
part of the
binary
problem.
domain.
Yeah, I actually watched Dean play some of this because he was playing at our hotel room. I agree with him that I don't quite understand when people are, like, upset about this game. It seems like mildly, fine. I don't know if I believe it's good. I think the problem is that, these games are so narrative driven. So what matters is, like, the storytelling and the whole, the idea that androids are going to become, like, the next marginalized class in society is something that has been, like, incredibly well covered in science fiction already. Just doesn't feel like fresh ground.
yeah. And that doesn't mean that you can't, like, find some fresh stuff in there that you enjoy personally. I don't think it's going to make the cut here. So, and I see that Jason's already moved it down. So
My thing is that it's not subtle, and it needs to be.
yeah,
It feels like the message is being driven home by a battleship when it should be driven home by a little escort.
Light cruiser.
yes.
Yeah, it's always there for sure. Like, the android detective shows up, or the negotiator shows up, and the woman whose kid is on the line goes, "You're not going to send an android in there, are you? Oh my god!"
Right. Yeah. I mean, they definitely seem to hit those beats hard and repetitively. But okay, I think we feel good about moving Detroit down. I think that just kind of takes us back to Mike if we want to keep going around the horn for a little bit, because we still have 24 games on the list. So, Mike, is there one you want to cut now?
Oh gosh, I mean, honestly, just looking at it, it's either games right now that I like or just haven't played. There's nothing I find super offensive, to be honest. I guess I don't know. I think Forza Horizon 4 is fine. I think it's another Forza Horizon. Maybe it's the best one, but I'm a bit over those games. I think most people aren't like me. Most people are still very high on them. But that's just kind of how I feel about Forza Horizon. I'm not, that into it.
So it's in my top 10, but it's in like, I think the number 9 slot. It is a great game, and I thought I was going to be sick and bounce off, and then I ended up liking this one more than any Forza game I've ever played before. It's incredible, but in the end, you're right. It is still essentially an open world racing game, and we've had a lot of those. And yeah, I'm okay with taking that off.
Move it on down.
Yeah, Dean,
Move it on down.
cut something for us.
Yeah. I could talk about Dr. Grodbort's Invaders a little bit and then take it off. It is a game for the Magic Leap 1, which costs $2,300, and so of course nobody has played this game, and only maybe developers who bought the Magic Leap 1 are even aware of it. And it is though a very well done game from Weta Workshop. It's a steampunk style to it, and the comical British humor, very, very contained into a single space, because you're basically waiting for robots to sort of drill their way out of your walls in your home, and then you shoot them with a gun. And so there's not much to it, but yeah, it's an original experience that never been able to do before, which is like really have cartoon characters coming into our home in real life, being able to see them and being able to see your furniture and being able to see your friends all at the same time watching you play this. It's just a different kind of experience, and it really kind of illustrates what you can do with mixed reality or augmented reality. And I think we're going to get a lot more of the same. They actually worked on this game for like 5 years alongside the development of the Magic Leap 1. So it is a pretty high quality experience, actually.
I would imagine they'd have to know exactly how the environment tracking stuff works, because that's some tech that isn't in other stuff that you can just use a plug-in to figure out. So
into the annoying part of augmented reality now, which is for about a minute before you boot up this game, you have to scan your room. You have to wear the headset and look around.
Oh, weird.
Make sure that it knows where the walls are and the furniture is and all that. So that's just something that has to do for the computing.
Right. Okay. I think we should keep moving along. Jason, you're up next. Cut one for us.
Yeah. The biggest reason to move Dr. Gorbot's is, just the fact that nobody's playing it that doesn't have a very expensive piece of little hardware.
Yeah. Dean started by saying that. He's like, yeah, no one's going to play this. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'm committed to the ones I put down here. I don't know if I could, I guess the one, I didn't put this, but the one that I think that would fit the best would be Starlink. It's good. It's definitely the best Starfox game made in years. But I'm
the other one. I think I'm the one that put that down. Game. Yeah, I'm the one that put that down, and I agree.
It might be one of my top 10 for my list, but
yeah,
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, it's even fun if you don't have kids.
My kid's not playing. I'm playing. I'm enjoying it, but it is. I forgot about it when I was doing my top 10 list. So yeah, that kind of says enough for me. And I like it. I think I'm the one that put it down here. So clearly I'm like, yeah, I really do like it. I think it's a lot of fun. But I think it's just doing a lot of stuff really well when it comes to making sure that you're always moving forward and you're always progressing, and the flying feels really good. And then when you're ready for another mission, you just press up on the D-pad and they just give you one and you just keep going. And it has that really nice sense of mechanical and gameplay momentum that I really appreciate in any game I'm playing, especially one on the Switch. But I think you're right here. It's not going to hang with what else is on this list.
Yeah, and the toys are fun to play with, even when you're not playing with the game. But
I got the digital version, so I don't know about that. Yeah,
it's definitely not something I would put in the same category as these.
All right, Rowan.
So I added Slay the Spire to the bottom of the list here with a question mark. It technically came out at the end of last year, but in early access, which it still is in. But like everyone I know who's played it picked it up at some point earlier this year,
Right.
and
I think it's
fell in love
completely.
with it.
I think it's completely
So-
fair to consider for this list if you want to, for
yeah,
sure.
I know both Jason and I fell into it pretty hard.
Yeah, it's great.
So
Can you guys? Because I see people playing it like on my Steam friend list, and I keep meaning to check it out because people seem to be really into it, and I still have no idea even what it is.
So it's a deck building roguelike, to use the buzzwords, but there are 3 classes or 4 classes of characters who start with like very generic kinds of cards that you use for combat, and that way you throw out an orb card that does 3 damage or whatever to enemies, and then every time you win a fight and you progress down these nodes, each of which has a fight or sometimes an event, but every time you win a fight, you can get cards that make your character kind of increasingly complex. So you have like the character who's built on there's a robot character who's built on like throwing orbs in the air, and they automatically do damage or do defense depending on what kind of orb they are. And then you can just like slowly build the character via more complex and powerful cards that you just get from naturally playing. So what it has is a really good core loop of feeling like you have RPG progression coming from something that's not used for RPG progression at all. And it's just really appealing, that both as an RPG and as a card game in that way. And it looks and sounds great too. But it's one of the cleverest pieces of design that I've seen in a long time.
Okay, yeah, that description alone, I could see why people are kind of falling for that game. That does sound like a good combination of stuff that's like, okay, I could just throw myself into this for a while.
It's fantastic, and the developer is supporting it and doing more with it, and it's definitely something else.
So how are you guys feeling about moving it down, keeping it? Like I said, it's okay to be on this list in terms of when it was released, for sure.
Yeah. The question mark is for release. It's not for the quality, because I think the quality is more than enough to have it there.
Okay, so if you guys want to keep it there for now, what else would you cut, Rowan?
I would say we've got 2 military shooters here in Battlefield 5 and Black Ops 4, and unless we're like really down to keep both of them, I would say we should pick whichever one's better.
I tell you what, as I was looking at it again, I was eyeing Battlefield 5 there and thinking
it does seem like the most obvious candidate, which brings us back to Dean. Dean, I like Battlefield 5 just fine, but I'm not.
Actually,
it's not on my list at all.
On my list today, I put Battlefield 5 ahead of Call of Duty.
All right, so goodbye, Call of Duty.
This is the 1 year Call of Duty's actually good. This is the first time I would have backed you up on Call of Duty. You on the Battlefield 5 game that no one cares.
Call of Duty off.
My God!
I want to knock Call of Duty off. I think it's better than a lot of these games out there.
I think that Rowan's right, though, is that we got they're 2 military shooters, and when these are the kinds of decisions that have to be made. Like when you're looking at still 21 games.
Let's take a few more out before we get to this one.
Yeah, I'm fine with waiting
Fair
on
enough.
that, but that's just the one that jumped out.
I can take off Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, yes. I think that's going to go.
It was a fun experience, and it was good to sort of close the trilogy of rebooted Lara Croft games, and yet it didn't necessarily feel like it took this in a direction that was more dramatic. I mean, it was sort of more of the same of what you saw in Rise of the Tomb Raider or Tomb Raider.
I think you're right. I think that one can.
Sure.
I think that one can go right down right now, because I don't. I think you like it the most, and it doesn't sound like you even really love it necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, the ending that was I was split on the ending. There was part of the ending that was kind of dumb. Part of the ending.
I think we can count that as Rowan's, since he try to make 2, and you just kind of made that as a concession to him to keep one of yours. So yeah, God, let me look at this list now.
I'm building consensus here.
Yeah, you're building bridges. This is a tough list now. All of a sudden, this is a hard one to pick anything.
I'm curious
from.
what
Dean thinks now is more worthy of getting thrown off.
He'll get his turn. Let me find something here. I guess I would say Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is tough because it actually is one of mine.
That's a good game.
It is a good game. I don't know. Because there's a lot of stuff. Because it's not.
Assassin's Creed to stay for.
Okay. All right.
Who got the farthest into that?
I did because I reviewed
Jeff.
it. I like it, but it like the grind was real. We could talk about that. Let's give that its chance in a little bit. Okay, then in that case, Smash Brothers.
Oh, you do me dirty.
I'm sorry, dude.
Wow.
I like Smash Brothers.
My number one game.
I like it, but I mean,
At 2.
No one else here cares about Smash Bros. That's my problem.
I mean, if
It's not that we don't care. I'm saving it for my kid's birthday, Christmas present, so I'm not going to play it until Christmas Day.
it's
You're not even going to give me. We'll put it at 10 for Mike.
well, no, we could if it's your number one. If that's the one you want to like spend, if you want to use that token, which everyone's probably going to get at least one of, and you want to spend it now on Smash Brothers, we can do that. But then But then it's going to be like, well, then, Monster Hunter's going to be up and stuff and some other stuff. And it's going to get tough.
Well, I could already tell you that I care way more about Smash Bros. Than Monster.
Okay. Well, then, I mean, does anyone else have anything for Monster Hunter?
I played the first couple hours and liked it, but knew that it was an investment and never actually invested. So
Same here. I tried it on PS4, got through those, got pretty far, was trying to really love it. And then I'm like, I got to a point where I fell off. So I'm like, I'll just try it on PC, and then got on PC and tried to do those first hours again and couldn't get over that hump because it was just like, it was too much, too long, too boring.
Monster Hunter was I think it was my number 10. I like it a lot.
Okay.
And I think the admirable thing about it is that we have all these online focused games that come out and just aren't good until months later. And Monster Hunter World was good right away. It felt complete right away.
It's really good.
Yeah. I mean, it has its like sort of, hiccups with trying to make sure that you're going to be able to play with each other at the same time, but that's kind of a little bit beside the point of whether or not it's good. It is good, that for sure. I think though that we can safely move it down.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a hard one to move down though, because it's,
I agree.
It's one of the best-selling games. It's definitely Capcom's biggest hit of the year. There weren't any real problems with it. Monster Hunter really has only one problem, and that's the time commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes.
The way that we all try to play many different things, and, I can't speak for many of you others, but Ro and I, the games that we get into just take hours and hours and hours.
But once in a while, I'm like you guys, I get into a Total War game.
yeah.
So, all right. So we have 19 games here.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one to knock off.
It is. I mean, I think it's going to be kind of hard going forward, though. This is it's an arbitrary process, and like, why 10 games? It's a dumb thing overall, but I think it helps us sort of like really.
Number.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good round number, but it helps us sort of calcify our ideas and like why we like these games, and making tough decisions brings out an interesting conversation. So none of this means that like Monster Hunter is a bad game. Like no one could really think of anything bad to say. So yeah, like don't feel bad about having to cut it. What was that?
It's
Ryan?
a good game.
I think from here we need to move into more of a consensus thing, because we really like all of these here.
I was just going to say, like, I was like, so does anyone have any ideas about like, should we start deciding like things that should be in the top 10 for sure?
I'm kind of wondering, Jeff, like why is Frostpunk still there? And like,
well, no one's cut it, and I like it a lot.
I hear you talk about that a bit.
Well, let Rowan first. Rowan's got some really good thoughts on it.
Well, what I was going to say first is that, there are a few indie games that it looks like we only have one person who's really gung-ho for on here, and I feel like going through those would be the next step, and that would be Echo, Frostpunk, Obra Dinn, and Astrobot Rescue Mission. And I'm not saying that these are bad, they just only seem to have one major proponent right now.
So I'll be throwing myself behind Astrobot because I know that's one of Mike's favorites. So that one's kind of safe. And Eco's the one where it's like I'll cut all my other games for Eco. I just want to get it in at number 10 if I can.
Well, how about we just start at the top of the list and just talk about them and see where.
Well, I mean, what were the Frostpunk, and what was the other one? Obra Dinn. Does anyone else care about Obra Dinn? I do.
I do.
Yeah, I've heard extremely good things. I just haven't gotten to it myself.
I just haven't played it, yeah.
Right. And Jason, you said you do. You put it on here?
I put it on here, and I think it's fantastic. But, the one I'm going to fight for is Pillars of Eternity, too. So if Obra Dinn doesn't make the cut, it doesn't make the cut.
Well, it's, I think we could probably cut it. I think it's, I've probably gotten about a third of the way through it. Yeah, I'm at like 20 out of 60, like crimes solved or whatever.
I've solved 11.
So I don't think I'm quite far enough to know if I'm going to continue loving it as much as I do, which is a lot.
But it's another consequence of coming out later in the year.
For sure. And then like all those other games, good games coming out right after it. Like I started putting time into Mutant Year Zero. And so, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think what we could do now, this looks pretty fair. I like Frostpunk a lot. We can try to cut that one real quick if anyone thinks we probably should, but,
so I tried to get into Frostpunk for end of year stuff, both for us and for 3 Moves Ahead, the strategy game podcast, and I really loved how it looked and felt. I like my city builders to be sad. I like them to have a sense of history. I like them to have a sense of like scale and tragedy and all. And it was doing that for me. And then I started playing the BattleTech expansion and never actually went back. It didn't actually click with me too far as a game, and that might just be because of bad timing. I don't want to judge the entire thing, but I did not add my name to it on that because I was still in the first mission, just kind of doodling around, figuring things out when I got distracted. So I'm okay with it being on the list conceptually. I just can't.
Right. And I think I'll speak for it. I really like it a lot. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to convince anyone it should stay and also get eco at the same time. So I'm kind of looking forward to, I'm like looking into the future and seeing that conversation happening. So I think we probably can cut Frostpunk.
Ruthless Spike says it go.
I'm going to put it in a middle region.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I do want to like
bubbles back up.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of speak to it real quick, it is like all the things that Rowan said. It's sad and moody, and and it forces you to make all those tough decisions about managing people. And it is very much like it's a city management game, but it really comes down to managing the people that make up that city. And you feel the consequences of those decisions really viscerally. And then it also still has all these really interesting pathways to get to points where you can deal with those crises that keep coming up. And one of them was just like going down the religion route and using religion as a tool and a weapon, and kind of having access to that was like, it was super empowering and fun and like intoxicating, and having that intoxicating feeling after so many hours of just scraping by and barely making it work. It was really kind of a fun moment, a special moment. We talked about that earlier this week. So yeah.
I played about 2 hours of it, and it's definitely one of those games I would love to get more into. Just not able to.
Yeah. It really clicked on me. It was my first run and I got through it and I was like, yeah, so I felt pretty good about it. But, yeah, I think we can at least move it down and kind of work with what we have right now. So yeah, let's kind of move these just down a little bit. I think let's kind of.
To me, I'm starting to wonder about whether Hitman 2 or Odyssey are really ones that I would want on this.
Well, those are a couple that I definitely feel strongly about. I mean, I was willing to cut Odyssey until I heard that like Mike feels really good about it, and when I'm like, okay, if he does too, then I'm probably going to be willing to push for it a little bit. Make some more room down here. I want to.
I'm surprised everyone's turning against Odyssey already.
I'm not turning against it. I'm glad to hear that you.
I'm not super far in it. I finally started it, but I'm like, oh, this is actually really good.
Right. I'm sorry. Let me just.
Are we prepared to talk about Odyssey right now, or
no? So no. I think what we should do is I've tried to make like 5 spots up here at the top. Why don't we just all pick one game that we know we definitely want to be in the top 10?
Okay, I'm putting Pillars. Jeff, you want Echo?
Let's
excuse me.
Yeah, let's hang on. Let's talk it out though real quick. Sorry, I'm just trying to make this list make sense in any way.
You erased mine.
No, I'm not typing.
Okay. So I think I might have just accidentally done that. Who knows? Let me there.
I think press Control Z a couple times because Pillars got lost.
Yeah,
it's not there anymore.
Okay.
Or just type it in.
Wow, Jeff, you ruined everything.
I know. I was just trying to move the list around. And things must have just gotten eaten. All right. Well, damn it.
I just got an email from Obsidian telling me that the entire Pillars 2 experience was on sale now.
Let me hit Control Z until it fixes everything. All right, there's Pillars.
Fired.
All right, is that right?
Wait.
Why is it so upside down? It looks so bad now. It's so messed up.
Yeah, this got
moved down.
Yeah, I think Control Z might have just.
Got moved up.
All right. Well,
BattleTech got moved down, even though
no, I think there's just holes in this list. All right, let's.
Want me to try to help? Or, okay, well, somebody's on it.
maybe we should just like recreate the list.
Yeah, let's.
We
We
can
can.
little graphic of the puppy who pulled out the
Move,
power cord for the
Stone
Simpsons.
County down.
Yeah, hang on. I will. Let's.
No more things that Jeff White does this. I like it.
There we. No, that's not it.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Like, if you know a game's gonna be in the top 5, or like if you know what you want it in the top 10, let's do it. Let's start with you, Mike. Go ahead and pick one of your games. We'll put it in the top 10.
In there.
Okay.
Smash you.
All right.
Smash.
How about you, Dean?
Red Dead and God of War.
You don't get to, but God of War I like a lot also, so don't worry about. You don't have to spend a token on that.
All right, Jason. How about you?
I'm gonna put Pillars in
Okay.
because that's my favorite game of the year.
Rowan.
BattleTech.
All right. And I'll just get it out of the way. Let's just put Eco up there. All right. Okay, so
Wait,
this
we
is
didn't
the bottom of
move
the list.
Battlefield 5 down yet.
Yeah, hang on. I'll like the list got messed up. That is what happened.
Yeah.
I think.
Who else hates Jeff?
Yeah, I know. I hate myself right now too, quite a bit. All right, I think the most
COD
part's
would still
okay.
be there after Battlefield or
Okay.
with Battlefield, and I think that's
Yeah.
that's good for
That's
now.
bunch.
If we don't
Yeah.
think of it, then we don't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Hitman
14,
2,
I think.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right then. So then we're looking at this middle list then right here: Celeste, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Hitman 2, Into the Breach, Marvel, Spider-Man, Slay the Spire, God of War, Tetris Effect, Battlefield 5, and Call of Duty.
I really want to hear from Dean why once again the 2 military shooters are among the best games of the year.
Well, I mean, like-
sadly, it's the combination of the two that actually gives you the great military.
Two great tastes that go great together.
Because Call of Duty has Blackout, right? It's got a great battle royale game that I got into, even though I didn't get into either Fortnite or PUBG, and it sort of simplified things and made it familiar enough for me to know what I'm doing and shoot. So that was like a spectacular addition to Call of Duty, and I think they did the multiplayer well enough. It was okay. Zombies still has some basic challenges for me to get into, because zombies, and they tripled down on zombies, right? Zombies, you never get the whole part of the story unless you can play it for several hours straight without dying. It's basically. There's a whole third of that game that I never really get into. Battlefield 5 had a very good update with the additional story. The Last Tiger story was a good one, and a map where you could fight it out with tanks versus tanks, really. And that was what was missing about the early part of Battlefield 5, which almost felt very incomplete, especially without a battle royale mode. It's kind of a toss up for me on those two, but I say that I've been enjoying and playing Battlefield 5 more and playing Call of Duty less.
Okay, so I think I know how to solve this. Let's do another round where we all add one game if we have one we want to add, and then we'll see what games we have left off, and we'll talk about each of those and see if we need to make any exchanges or anything like that. Does that work?
Okay,
That
let's do
works.
that.
All right, Mike. Let's just go back to you. Let's start with you once again.
Spider-Man.
Okay. All right, Dean. What are you putting up? You get one.
God of War.
Okay. Never mind. This isn't going to solve it. I thought you were going to pick Battlefield 5 or Call of Duty, and that would.
No, that's solving it perfectly. We'll just have to leave both those games off.
Yeah.
You're right. Never mind. What am I saying?
I think that's what's going to happen because the quality of the other games here is
Yeah.
high enough.
Yeah, that works. I mean, yeah. I guess when you had to pick, you picked God of War. So
Let's
yeah.
keep this process going. Let's see what else.
Jason,
we get
go ahead.
Yeah.
I thought Mike was going to pick God of War.
Jason, pick which one you want to put up.
Dead Cells.
Okay.
Yes.
We lost that one.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one.
we did.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you remembered that. I would have forgotten.
I wouldn't have forgotten.
Okay. All right then, Rowan.
Slay the Spire.
Let's move it up. And then let me see. I would. Ooh, man. There's a lot of good games there.
There are.
I see at least one we're going to have to put in.
Yeah.
I
Geez.
feel like you don't want to waste your vote for it because you know we're just going to put it in.
Yeah, I think so too. So
But on the other hand, if that's not your strongest opinion, then
no, you're right.
it's left off.
It isn't, and actually, my list would actually support this. I do put the game that I think I'm going to pick higher than the one I know will make it. But actually, there's two that I think. God. So here's right now. I'm like, I can't decide between Hitman 2 and Into the Breach. I think Tetris Effect's going to make it for sure. And I hold a torch for Hitman 2 and Into the Breach. I think Into the Breach is going to make it as well. So I'm going to say Hit. And Celeste is going to make it for sure as well. God, there's a lot of games up here.
I am actually not that huge on Into the Breach. I like it a lot. It's very clever. It's very good, but I did not fall in love with it like I did the other game I put up here. So it's one that I support being on the list, but it's not one that I'm going to say needs to be on the list.
Yeah, here's my secret I've kind of kept from Jeff. I didn't get into the Breach.
Okay. And if I try to get Hitman 2 on the top 10 list, am I going to face some pushback there?
Not a ton. I mean, it
not
depends.
Not necessarily. It's not like
if you're like Hitman 2 is going to be on there, but Celeste isn't, then I'll be upset.
Right. I don't think I'm going to do that necessarily, but I don't know if I want to make that decision. I think there's some other decisions we can make. Okay, I'm just gonna let me just put Hitman 2 up there. I'm just gonna commit now.
But I mean, I would ask though, like, would you still consider such a slow game like Hitman 2 to be more interesting than something as dramatic as Battlefield?
Yeah, Hitman 2 is way more fun to me because
I don't understand this criteria.
Yeah, because it's not about slow; it's about like the possibility space and all that stuff.
Is it Red Dead famously slow?
Yeah.
Red Dead is incredibly
Thank you, Rowan. Thank you, Rowan.
Talk about Red Dead in a different.
it's the good slow.
It's slow good.
Hitman 2, is entirely up to you, right? It's like
sounds great so far.
You are working on it. It's very emergent. Battlefield 5 is in a lot of ways it's the opposite. Like you're sitting back and you're watching some of this.
You're not winning me over. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're definitely right. And it's okay that you like that more. That's not going to win me over though. I think what we should do now though is, there are a lot of good games that have been left out of the top 10 and I'll put it this, the 4 of Celeste, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Into the Breach, and Tetris Effect are all better than Battlefield 5 and Call of Duty. Like,
well, from what's left there, I'd take Call of Duty off, right? So
okay, okay, so we can just move Call of Duty down. All right, great.
I would say that Celeste not being there is distressing me by far the most.
Yes, same.
Like, I actually have anxiety about it.
Okay, all right. So here's what we got to do then. I agree. Celeste has to be up on the list. We have to figure out what we're cutting then.
And then I say Battlefield 5 as an experience is more enjoyable than Odyssey. Like Odyssey, to me, the thing that's missing is great mocapped faces, right? The expressions that you see on the face of the girl, like somebody's going over the cliff, it's just not realistic.
I agree completely, and that's kind of the funny thing about Odyssey and Red Dead is like Red Dead is obviously like just gorgeous with the way the animation quality and the acting quality is incredible, and I think that the question I'm tussling with is that worth it? Like having the game be maybe not all that good because the gameplay Odyssey is much more satisfying to me. Whereas the gameplay of Red Dead Redemption is usually, ride a horse, keep tapping the A button to go a little faster, then maybe get into a fight where you push the L button, aim up a little bit and shoot their heads and, you win. So it is just kind of like, man, somewhere there's a perfect game that has both of these things, but it's kind of, what matters.
And it does feel like you're making a sacrifice there, right? Because it's like the motion capped faces, they don't leave room for imagination. And it seems like Ubisoft is making a deliberate choice. Like when you go to pick up an item in Red Dead, the entire action is very, very meticulously crafted and animated. And in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, she just stands there and the stuff zooms from the ground into her pocket. These are two completely different schools of thought about how to pick an item off the ground, and they're making both these choices for reasons. And I think the reason in Ubisoft is that it leaves the room in your imagination to like fill in those gaps instead of having Red Dead say, this is what this character is going to do in this situation, which is hard to...
Can I interject?
Yeah, please, Jason.
It distresses me that we're caring about motion capture as a criteria for these top games.
I mean, it's a
so
thing.
Many
it's
of
an
these
art.
games don't have motion capture. I don't feel like it's fair.
Well, I think Hitman 2 handled it well, where they just do this motion comic like thing or still frames with voiceover that gives you the feeling that you've got this pretty dramatic sort of story element happening, and so I don't think you need the really great mocap to tell a great story, and Hitman 2 kind of proves that. It's just that some of the animations in Assassin's Creed are so bad they distract me out of that story.
Here's my other thing, really, more importantly, is that we're talking about Battlefield 5 over Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I feel like these are both games that might just be left off the list anyway.
Yeah, I think what we have is we have like a pretty solid 7 or so that are definitely going to be there. And then there's about 5 that we're working on getting like 2 or 3 of.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would say right now the ones we have 2 slots for Slay the Spire, Hitman, Celeste, Assassin's Creed, and maybe Battlefield, and maybe Tetris Effect, but nobody seems to have a strong feeling about Tetris Effect.
No, we haven't gotten there yet. I feel pretty strong.
We haven't had a chance to talk about it.
But no one's felt like putting it up there, and like that's sort of the Into the Breach thing. I feel like where we liked it, but maybe we don't.
I do love Tetris Effect, but it is just for me. It's just behind Hitman 2 and Into the Breach and Dead Cells and Eco. So for me, yeah, I mean, I would love to see Tetris Effect up there. But if I'm saying like if I want to keep those other games, there's no way I can also get Tetris Effect up there. I don't know.
Astrobot was another game that disappeared.
Oh God, yeah, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Made it hard.
Okay, so I think I agree with Mike's assessment though that Assassin's Creed and Battlefield 5 probably aren't going to make it on the list. Dean, I know you really like Battlefield 5. You put up Red Dead first. You put up God of War first. I don't know.
I think Battlefield 5 has its flaws as well.
Yeah, and I think like what you said, it's like
should have done a whole single player campaign.
Right, and it's and if you really kind of feel like you need Call of Duty along with it to get the full experience of what you're looking for there, I think that kind of says a lot. And yeah, let's just move Assassin's Creed Odyssey down. It is a great game, but it is kind of one of those, and it's just a very good one of those. Wait, I inserted a row.
It also feels like it's a really good one of those after they had another really good one of those last year.
Yes, that's fair.
I do think it is significantly better than Origins. I didn't even like Origins, and I like Odyssey
too.
Yeah,
but that still may not be
I
enough.
like this Odyssey more than any other memorable Assassin's Creed.
Okay, so then we have some tough choice. Okay,
I still go like, why are you trying to tell me that there's something new about Tetris?
Oh God.
That I need to know?
Okay. Well, now I want Tetris Effect on there for sure, just because Dean put it like that. Okay, so
okay, so the mocap on each of the pieces is just amazing.
So my defense of Tetris Effect is Tetris has always been a perfect game, and they don't have to change much to make it continue to be really excellent. It is still just 7 pieces falling down, and you're trying to make lines. It is what it is there. What this game does, though, is it explores the relationship between mechanics and then visuals and sound. And when people, I think we all kind of want to reduce games to just their mechanics. Like I remember playing maybe GoldenEye. It was that where I'm like, you could just kind of look at the radar up on the top right and just be looking at that, and that's the whole game. And what you don't really need the rest of this stuff here. And what Tetris Effect does is it says, no. The way that the game sounds and the way the game looks and what is happening visually around those mechanics is also the game. It is like the the space between the notes. It is the Kuleshov effect in movies. It's putting two frames, one next to or two shots, one in front of the other, and that is where the meaning is created. And in games, that's where the meaning is created between the relationship between the visuals and the mechanics. And this game just absolutely crushes that to the point where, and I didn't even like mention this like on Twitter and was like, and wasn't gonna ever like really tell anybody until I saw a bunch of people say this. I like teared up playing it just from like the emotional weight of feeling like that, like just this game having an effect on me without having to tell a story or use like language or anything like that. It's really, really powerful stuff. And, you know, that
you just described Journey for me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, maybe, but I mean, Journey was probably one of your favorite games the year it came out, right?
My favorite game of all time.
Yeah, I've still never played Journey. I'm going to play it when it comes to PC.
Oh, Journey's good.
Yeah. But for me, like that's what it was like. It was like this really revelatory thing. It'd be like, okay, no, this stuff all matters. You have to have it all. It is the complete package that matters. It's not just mechanics. You know, that said, it's like number 4 or 5 on my personal list. And if we feel like we can cut it and feel good about that, I think I'm okay, because the games that I've put above it, I actually do end up liking more.
I like Tetris Effect quite a bit too. Not as much as you, but I'm also okay seeing it kind of go here.
Okay.
So Tetris Effect to me is my favorite Tetris since the original. My only thing is I wish it was multiplayer.
Yeah, and it's definitely not what it's not trying to do that. So it's not like it's this bait and switch or anything like that. But there is like that. I think the other mode that isn't the Journey mode, where you're going through the levels one by one. It's this curated experience. There's just it's a lot. There's a lot of different options, and you don't necessarily know where you're supposed to be. And if you want to kind of be score chasing with your friends, there's almost too much, so you don't really know which thing you should be trying to like go against each other. And it's almost too much, and it's not presented well enough where it feels like, oh, this is really going to be a good ongoing experience, which is kind of where I when I was kind of thinking about where the game sat with me when I was doing the review. That's where I started kind of pulling back and saying, it's great, it's amazing, but as a game, as a long-term product, maybe it's not as perfect as I thought it was when I first started like writing my review. So yeah, I feel good about moving it down now. I'm glad I got to say
you
that.
did that game 100, didn't you?
Almost. I almost did. And then right before we published it, I was like really thinking about all those other modes and kind of came back, and I think I ended up giving it a 95. Okay.
I am okay with leaving Slay the Spire. Like, I love it, and if it should be in the top 10 if we want it to be there, but like I think that it is fine to go to bat for it next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I agree.
And especially because I know that Celeste is going to make that top 10.
Yeah.
That something's got to be sacrificed, and that one seems to be.
So then I think we can also probably cut Into the Breach then, because I don't think anyone quite loves it as much as me, and we're kind of already getting down to.
I love it as much as you do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I like Celeste better.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. But I think so we moved Slay the Spire down, and now we have Astrobot and Into the Breach, and I think go ahead, Rowan.
I mean, those would be 11 and 12, so we have to move something else down.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm discussing that. I think, Mike, do you want to try to get Astrobot into the top 10? I think it's kind of up to you, because I'd be willing to hear that. I just don't know what we cut necessarily, and I want to hear what you would have. And
I don't want to put it above any of my other games. I just, Celeste. I mean, Astrobot is fantastic. It's both a super charming and fun and clever 3D platformer, and also just this great VR experience that finally, I think, gives VR its sort of killer app moment. So it's definitely one of my favorite games of the year. I'm not going to sacrifice Smash Brothers or Spider-Man for it.
I mean, do you have? Is there a game up there that like jumps out at you that you like someone else's that you might want to push down and make the argument? Like,
you're trying to turn me against Red Dead? Is that what you're doing?
I mean, I would love to, but
I like it more than Red Dead, but that was Dean's one.
No, yeah, I'm not really saying Red Dead. I'm wondering, like, because there's.
I know. I mean, there's some games here I haven't played. Like, I mean, there's nothing on here that aren't like the people's favorite. Like, Echo means nothing to me, but that's super important.
Right. Yeah. That's my one.
say Battletech. Battletech means something to me, but super important to Rowan. So it's like there's none of the first picks that I would remove for it. There's neither of mine that I would remove for it. So I'm kind of at an impasse, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the only one, because it's mine, like Hitman 2. Like, I want to keep Hitman 2 up there, but if you want to make an argument for Astrobot,
oh, that's good. Actually, you know what?
I'd be willing to hear it.
What? I think I want to put Astrobot in front of Hitman 2 because, I don't know. I feel Hitman 2 is great, but it is, correct me wrong, it is largely Hitman 1 some more with some improvements.
It's the Hitman 1 second season that never was. It really is that. It absolutely is. And
that's good.
I love that. I'm glad this game exists exactly the way it is. But I could see that being a reason why it's like when we're talking about the top 10 games of the year, that, there is something to be said for doing something new and fresh, as well as doing stuff really well, which, Hitman 2 does stuff really well. And the stuff it does new and fresh is sort of like how it presents ideas and stuff. But Astrobot is doing quite a lot new. And I feel good about Astrobot. I like that game quite a bit. So I think I can be okay with this switch, and we could maybe lock in our 10 games and not necessarily in any order yet.
Yeah, then we can figure, because then when I look at that list, I feel real good about it. It's just the order at this point.
Okay. I think we could probably...
Yeah. I mean, I liked Hitman 2, and I'm still playing it, and holds my attention. The only thing I think is that there is a bit of a lie in there when they say you can do anything and find any way to. Sure. You can. There are time limitations that come into some of these things.
Well, yeah. I mean, those are
out a certain time, then you sort of lose this avenue to do a certain kind of.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the avenue didn't exist. It just means you have to like play within the confines of.
You have to rush your way to that one,
right?
When you're still trying to soak in all these different ways.
For sure. And I think what you're talking about there is just sort of learning what rules does Hitman 2 take very seriously and what stuff does it sort of let you play around with. And those routines and the way stuff works and like triggering certain events to happen, you just have to kind of uncover those as you play. It's really hard to even explain it. Like I could tell you
sometimes it just leads you right to the way to take something.
Right, but then there's like these really well hidden things, like the way to kill both the father and the daughter on the Miami level at the same time. Like you have to uncover exactly the way to get him in the right position to do that, and it involves like just moving this dongle from one place to the other and messing up this laptop, which messes up the satellite, and he goes to fix it, something he would never do otherwise. And then you just kind of wait for him to say the right thing, and then you push him, and he falls in right on top of her race car, kills them both at the same time, and you just hop in the helicopter and you go. And I think I perfected that route to a point where I beat that mission in like less than 5 minutes, and it was like this. And without getting seen or anything like that, it was this really like perfect route. And yeah, like that requires just playing the map over and over and sort of really soaking it in. And that's just part of Hitman, which is a great game. And yeah, number 11 best game of the year for sure.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. So I say we kind of do.
I'm happy with this list, but I think now it's time to rank it.
Oh yeah, for sure. We just gotta.
Now that we've done the easy bit.
Yeah.
I think this will be easier.
Yeah, I never know like what's going to be the harder part. I mean, we have to pick a game of the year, and like, I don't know if we start there, or do we want to like put stuff in a top 5 and a bottom 5 and sort of just.
And just FYI, I think I've got about 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, wonderful. All right.
Yeah, I think we do a top 5, bottom 5, and kind of work from there, just like we did last year.
Okay. Well, then Mike, what's going to go in the top 5?
I think Celeste is game of the year, just in terms of total consensus of how much of us love it.
I think you might be right. We could just do that.
I mean, unless anyone else.
Well, let's put it there for now, and we'll see if we can knock it out with anything. I'm okay with that though. That sounds right to me. I think you're right that when all is said and done, it does feel like it will have the most support, just broadly. Dean, what do you want to put in the top 5?
I would put both God of War and Red Dead over Spider-Man, which is one of my picks.
Okay. Okay. Give me one of those two. Then you want to put up in the top 5 for now, though. Red Dead or God of War?
I would still put Red Dead
above. Okay. Jason.
I would like Dead Cells in the top 5 because my other one would have been Celeste from this list.
Okay. Rowan, I think you probably only played BattleTech and Pillars out of these that are left.
Oh no, he played Dead Cells too.
Well, I mean, out of the ones that haven't made into the top 5 yet.
But yeah, I think we have much more of a consensus on BattleTech
Yeah.
between you and me and Jason.
Yes, I think that's probably right. Okay. And then I would, let's see here. Out of these, I'd probably put up Spider-Man, I think, or maybe Astrobot.
Spider-Man would be my next pick.
Okay. So,
of course.
It's good stuff.
All right. So I could say that I'm just because I know no one. It's not even like another game that I think you could even have the same experience I had with it. I'm okay with putting Eco at number 10, just right off the bat. Let's see here. So that's right there. Do we have any from the bottom 5 that we want to move up? Do you like?
We can put Smash Brothers just at 9 if you want to, because I know I'm the only one who really.
I'm cool with putting Pillars of Eternity at 9, since I know so many of you haven't.
Yeah,
played
well, we can kind of put those.
We're so agreeable. Since he wants it at 9, I want Smash Brothers at 8 now.
Both Jason and I really, really, really liked Pillars too. So I would
Okay.
I would even put it up to 6, but I know that God of War will probably.
Well, let's do.
We'll talk.
Okay.
This is so weird though. We're hardly ever this.
I would,
Well, we'll get there.
I think we're close. That's very close. I think that's a fine.
So
Red Dead's too
I
high,
would still
but-
put. I would still argue to put God of War higher.
okay, yeah. If you want to put God of War in the top 5, we can make that happen. But I mean,
We'll have to take something down.
I think
that's what we
as
get
an,
mean.
as an experience, we haven't talked that much about God of War.
yeah, for real.
For Spider-Man.
Yeah, I would move.
I like Spider-Man more than God of War.
I do too.
Okay. Before we solidify this, we haven't actually talked about Pillars 2 either.
Yeah, we're not. I don't think we're too close to solidifying it necessarily. Okay, so Dean, you would have put God of War higher. Would you be willing to move Red Dead Redemption down? Because like I like God of War more than Red Dead Redemption 2, but I don't necessarily love either.
I want to say that so like all the other games that only one person has liked is in the bottom 5, but Red Dead is number 3. There's only one person who's really.
I mean, I think like at best, I think in the top 5, you're going to get number 5 for Red Dead, and I also think more people like God of War than Red Dead. I feel like Red Dead at number 6 sounds right to me, and God of War maybe right there above it.
Red Dead behind Spider-Man?
Yeah,
Yes.
Spider-Man's a better game.
Spider-Man's a better game.
I think.
See, this is the problem we had when we were talking through the nominations thing, where two of the 3 of you liked each of those.
Mm-hmm.
So we have two Spider-Mans and 1 against, and 2 Gods of War and 1 against. And
I mean, I like Spider-Man.
I don't think there's 2 Red Deads. I think just one
Spider-Man was number 3, but a clear number 3 behind God of Red Dead.
Why?
All right, here I'm gonna start moving this list around. Let's see here. Let's move. I'm gonna move Red Dead off to the side.
Maybe the bigger question is: do any of those 3 AAA games beat out the things that the smaller games we have above it? Because I am totally happy to put smaller games at the top 3 and have the giant games at 4, 5, 6.
I mean, we got Celeste at 1, this was at 2, and that seems right to me.
That definitely seems right.
Because so I didn't play enough of Red Dead to really, get as good a feel as the rest of you. But I think Dead Cells and Celeste are both better than Spider-Man, BattleTech, God of War, and Pillars.
I mean, I do have a way of talking about these 2 games that I'd like to say, and then after that I said my piece. But I think with Red Dead, somewhere around mission 40, you just get a great mission. Like there's 105 missions, right? Somewhere around 40 or so, there's a fantastic mission. Around 50 or so, you get a total twist that you are thrown for a loop on. Around 75, you think you're done with the game, and then you get these two epilogues, right? That you don't expect to be there.
To be fair, I've heard the spoiler. I haven't finished it. I've heard the spoilers. Those epilogues sound pretty whack.
If you guys even come close to spoiling this game for me, I'm gonna quit.
That's as much as I'm gonna spoil it. But what I'm saying is, like, if you didn't get that far into it, you didn't even get to say the level 40 one. You don't really get an appreciation for this game.
I mean, it wouldn't have. There's no way it would have changed for me. There's just no way.
Yeah.
It was.
So then, switching to God of War, what I would say is that it is so comparatively tightly written compared to the all over the place Red Dead experience. And God of War is about this father-son relationship. The beginning is almost as perfect a beginning as I've seen since The Last of Us, right? In making that point, and that this is a hard relationship between the father and the son. They tie that to the ending really well. There's a total surprise at the ending that again shoots you back to the beginning of the game, and even like in the sub characters, the Baldur and Freya and the mother son relationship there is a mirror of what happens with father son between Kratos and Atreus, and so it is so tightly written. It's like somebody's perfect English novel in how they strung that together. Then they string together all this. That's sort of like this layer way above God of War mechanics, which I had almost no interest in. Like I had no interest in playing God of War at all, right? But this father-son game I could get into.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on everything you said. Actually, I think that was pretty well said. I think it's accurate for these. My argument for putting Marvel's Spider-Man ahead of it is that I think it is really well written. It is not trying to be more than a comic book story. It is a comic book story, and that's what it's trying to be, and it nails it. It's really good at that. And then at the same time, when you're going through that story and then you get to a boss fight, you're still playing as Spider-Man, and you still have like all of the abilities of Spider-Man. You're still like whipping around or thwipping around the environment and zooming and using your webs. And it's still like the full video game experience you've been playing the entire time. And God of War, when you go through that story mode, I'm not taking anything away from God of War. It was trying to be exactly what it was trying to be. But for me, when you get to that first big boss fight, and it is like kind of taking controls away from you half the time or more, to me, that's sort of a turnoff where I feel like I'm watching a lot of cool stuff happen here, and no doubt it is cool stuff, but I'm watching it and I'm not really playing it. There are some moments where you're controlling stuff, but it does feel pretty okay with taking controls away from you a lot of the time to say, hey, now just watch this and sit back. And I think it's more impressive what Spider-Man does. I
think both games were real well written. Maybe that's a tie in that department. I just think Spider-Man is the slightly more fun game. Traversal is fun in Spider-Man, whereas God of War, you're just walking, you're just rowing a boat sometimes, and they make that support interesting with the interaction between Kratos and his son, and that helps. But again, it's kind of like filler. It's to sort of distract you from the fact that you're just walking, and that's kind of boring. And kind of what Jeff's saying, Spider-Man has a lot of really good bosses. At God of War, it has a flaw. It's that its bosses, there aren't very many of them, and the ones that are there aren't all that good.
Yeah. I'm looking at the list. It looks good to me the way it is right now. I would, maybe some shit, like maybe Pillars can go above Astrobot if you guys want to try to do that. But I don't know. The rest of it kind of actually looks good to me. Does anyone feel like we have to change anything?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I guess our point of contention is the ordering of Spider-Man, God of War, Red Dead.
All right.
I have to acknowledge this is the one that I like best. Like this works for me. But if we want to be a little bit more,
right. I think the rest of the list though is pretty good because I mean I like what I've played of BattleTech, and I wish I played more of it. The way Rowan's,
I have no opinion on BattleTech. I guess
right. The way Rowan and Jason speak about it, though, it has convinced me like it belongs up there in like the number 3 spot. Dead Cells and Celeste, I think both have a lot of consensus overall. I feel very, very strongly about both those games.
Me too.
And then I think we already settled the bottom for the most part. And then, I think as long as we're okay with Marvel's Spider-Man, God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, I think we're good.
Let's.
I'm outvoted, so I don't.
Well, let's ask each person about 5 and 6 for the order and see what they say.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with the way it is right now with Spider-Man, and then God of War, and then Red Dead Redemption 2.
I think we just covered that
I agree
pretty well, and I think it sounds like we have the two people who we have more love for God of War and Spider-Man, and the two people who have that have more love for Spider-Man than God of War, even if only barely.
So we're at 2-2?
No, I think
2-1.
I think Rowan kind of explained it pretty well. It's like it was just this process where we got to the end, and the end when we talked it out, it fell into that order that it's in right now: Spider-Man,
Okay.
then God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2.
I have to exclude myself from the quality of Spider-Man and talking about where it should be on the list because its director is a friend of someone I used to work with.
Right,
so
yeah.
I feel like I have to disqualify myself from that discussion.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think, yeah, okay. I mean, Dean, can you feel good about this list?
I'm okay. I mean, I feel outvoted, but I'm glad that I got a few of my games on the list.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, they're excellent games, and I just think that the passion for the stuff that is above it is maybe deeper and broader.
That we have Celeste and Dead Cells.
Yeah,
I like that 1 and 2 a lot.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, like if you would have told me like when we started, like that's how we were gonna have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take it. Like, yeah, whatever else happens, I'll take that for sure. Yeah, both great games. Okay, so yeah, let's nail this real quick. So let's start with number 10. It is Eco, which is my fave. I've talked about it on other podcasts. I don't really feel like I need to talk about it too much. I haven't, but I guess just real quick, it's Minecraft with more systems. It enables you to go in there with a bunch of people and create civilization, but every act that you do has an effect on the ecology, and you can also affect your economy, which you have full control over. You can create your own currencies and stuff like that. And there is a meteor coming to destroy your civilization in 30 real-world days, 30 real-time days. So you want to build up enough technology to take out that meteor, but if you start exploiting your forests and the forests don't grow back, you have to deal with the consequences of that. Or if you start over hunting a certain animal, that animal will go extinct. Or if you if your markets aren't really functioning properly, then people will go buy a bunch of cheap stuff that they don't really need and hoard it. And then when people actually need it, they won't be able to just go purchase it and make do or even be able to find it because someone is hoarding almost all of the stuff that exists in this entire world. It creates a lot of really interesting and unique situations where you have to work together with these other players and figure out what's best, and sometimes work against each other. And yet in the end, even when you're working against each other, you're still sort of working towards the same goal, which is to take out the meteor. And it was a magical thing. And I'm really glad I got to experience it and got it on the list. Yeah, I think everything else we talked about, unless Pillars of Eternity 2. So yeah, number 9 is Smash Brothers. Did we actually talk about Pillars at all?
Well, Smash Brothers is just, it's such a...
That's right, we didn't even talk about Smash.
Of Nintendo. I mean, it's the most Smash ever. Just for any fighting game, this roster size of like 74 characters is ridiculous. And each one of these characters, even when they're like similar to another character, they have a lot of personality. They look so good. Like, this is the best Mega Man has ever looked in a game. It's the best Simon Belmont's ever looked in a game. This was like so many of these characters, like this, the best Ridley's looked in a game. All that stuff is just so cool. Like the new characters like Ridley, TK Rool, are just super fun to play as. There's more customization options than ever before. You can turn off stage hazards. You can just kind of mess around with all these little option things that really help make Smash Bros. A more customizable thing, which is good because people like to play so many different ways. And the single player mode is huge this time. There wasn't even really a single player mode last time. There was like an arcade mode and some things like that. This is a giant campaign that's gigantic and again really clever and witty. So yeah,
it's very clever. It's definitely it's definitely the kind of thing where it's like this. They put a lot of love into this, and you can notice it for sure. All right, then number 8 is Pillars of Eternity 2: Deadfire. Let's talk about that.
Rowan start.
Okay. So the Obsidian project that they have been doing going back to the Black Isle days for 20 years now is to try to create like morally ambiguous, complex faction role-playing games where your choices all end up, deciding how this murky situation gets resolved. And I think that Pillars 2 does the best of creating that murky situation that they've ever done. It's this story of colonialism on a set of, backwards islands where, the people who are there want to do their own thing, but they're also kind of conservative and they're jerks. But the people trying to exploit them are, they claim to be progressive, but they're also like also imperial military powers that, they might be racially progressive, but they're violent and maintain their power through violence. And
so the suburbs.
And it does a really good job of putting together all these things, making them sort of crash together at a level that I think Obsidian has been trying to do and will continue trying to do and improve. But right now, this is probably the best incarnation of that I've ever seen them accomplish. And as someone who has played, original Fallouts, KOTOR 2, New Vegas, Tyranny, all those, I think that it stands out even above those. The other thing is that I think they have figured out a way to make that isometric Baldur's Gate style combat not horrible. And in some ways that was just because they made it easy, but I just coasted through that game in a way that I haven't really any of them, from Baldur's Gate and Planescape Torment to Pillars 1 and Tyranny and stuff, where I get very easily frustrated by that style of combat. And Pillars 2, I just watched it and it was gorgeous, and it was the right level of smoothness. So those two things combined to have it really get into my head across the summer. And
then from my point of view, it also systems wise is the smoothest Obsidian game yet, in my opinion. That's it. That was set in their own world and not say a Dungeons and Dragons world. They ironed out some of the problems that they had with the first game with health, hit points, and armor. They added a really cool boat system for how you upgrade your pirate ship. It's the best pirate RPG ever made, in my opinion.
Okay. Let's not go nuts here. Sid Meier's Pirates exists.
It's not an RPG.
I played it one.
Yeah, we'll put that aside. We'll put that aside.
It's a good game, though.
And in my opinion, it has the best written story they've ever had, with a fantastic use of music. They did a lot of their own composition there. And I really enjoyed the way that your characters can decide whether or not they want to, try to stop the gods, if they want to thumb their nose at the gods. And
I have to run.
And their interactions with the gods. And I'm done.
No, yet. Yeah, Dean, I don't think I was just looking at the list. I think we talked about everything else pretty thoroughly, except for maybe BattleTech. So I think, Dean, if you want to say goodbye right now, you could do that, and we'll let Rowan talk about BattleTech and finish up the list. Thanks, Dean, for your.
We didn't really talk about Dead Cells and Celeste that much either. We just loved them.
You're right. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about all those right now, and then we'll read the list. So, Rowan, why don't you start with BattleTech? Oh yeah, we finished Pillars.
That I wanted to say was that there were a lot of good ideas about making theology in a fantasy world real in the first Pillars that didn't quite work. So if you played that and you were like, I like these ideas, but this game is kind of a mess, Pillars 2 is okay, we know what we did and we're making it really awesome now. And so I recommend anyone who, like me, had struggled with Pillars 1 to just go to Pillars 2. BattleTech.
Yeah, BattleTech.
Yeah, this is the tactical management game since the XCOM reboot some years back has been one of the most interesting and dynamic spaces for games, I think, with stuff like Darkest Dungeon and Massive Chalice and all these creative styles of games, and one of my favorites. And BattleTech's big thing that it does is it slows down the way that you kind of take damage and have to manage your difficulty throughout the game. I think Rob Zachney at Waypoint called it this is the first tactical game to really have the idea of attrition. Your mechs across battles will slowly get worse, as opposed to an XCOM where your characters will get one shot all the time, or they won't, and you one-shot enemies all the time. This slows down that sort of pace of fighting in a way that I find really appealing. I like the sort of gray areas of you're kind of winning, but are you kind of winning enough? And BattleTech does that really well. The expansion that just got put out, Flashpoint, adds actually the patch that came with it adds a career mode that takes out some of the sort of jumps that you get across the campaign that make the game a lot easier. Like, okay, you're going for the light mechs or the medium mechs, and we're giving you 3 medium mechs here right now, and it adds this level of kind of campaign difficulty that was exactly what I wanted to keep playing this game forever. So it's a bit of a messy game in some ways, where the graphics and the animation and the pacing, they're a lot better than they were when it was released, but there's still some awkwardness there, but I can't stop playing it. So yeah, that's about the highest recommendation I could give, is that I can't stop playing it and I love it. And even through its messiness, because it has done all the right things that I want within this subgenre.
I have some pretty similar feelings about Dead Cells, where I have stopped playing it. I always want to go back, but when I was first reviewing it and then just kept playing it after the review, I couldn't stop, and I got to the point where I hurt my hand playing it from like repetitive stress injury, and it was even then, when I knew I just had to rest and just kind of put my hand aside and not do anything with it, I was still like trying to find comfortable ways to play it so I could just keep going, because I was just so into this entire thing. And it's just, it's a mashup. The meets is like it's Castlevania meets a roguelike, with really great combat and a really great risk reward system for its exploration, where it's like, oh, do you want to run fast and try to unlock these doors that are time locked, or do you want to like explore each level and get as much boost to your character on this run as possible by slowly building them up over each run. And all that stuff works really well. And then on top of that, it has this exquisite feeling combat where you are in this dance with enemies, and they are always going to behave in a certain way. So as long as you know how to approach them, and even when there's a bunch of them on screen, you're usually going to have a good idea of like how to dodge to get out of the way, and then when to attack, and how to use certain weapons, which there's just a ton of different weapons and different combinations of weapons that you could be using. And it is like this, it's like this ballet of platforming that just really struck a chord with me, and I was really, really impressed by it, and just couldn't put it down.
It has a systematized risk-reward system, risk-reward aspect to it that it really nails despite it being randomized.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two things that I would mention is it's absolutely gorgeous. It's some of the best pixel art I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And the creators are in like an anarchist commune of like 14 people in France, I think, where they pay everybody the same, and it sounds fantastic and like a model, especially given all the discussions that we've had this year about workers' rights and so on. Like this one looks like these people are getting that right and creating an absolutely magnificent game.
Yeah, and they seem like real cool people, just from the way they set that up. And then they won the game at won an award at the Game Awards, and just kind of came on stage and were just like, and we immediately shouted out to everyone that was still back home saying, hey, this is just as much yours as it is ours. So it seems like they really, like, it's not just some bullshit. They really are sort of building themselves that way with the purpose of that's how they're going to make games and do it differently. And it's really nice that their first game turned out so nice that it feels like they can just keep going down that path. Celeste, Mike, do you want to kind of maybe run down Celeste for us to start?
Celeste is just, again, it's kind of like Dead Cells, this really beautiful pixel art style, but you said it good at one point, Jeff, where it's kind of like the Super Meat Boy follow-up we've been waiting for, where it has that feel of like just being this really difficult sort of platformer based on relatively simple mechanics of double jump, a dash, a wall climb, stuff we've seen before. But then like the level design is just so clever within that and works so perfectly. And then the game itself is so charming. Madeline is such this likable and adorable character, and she's going through her struggles. Like they're both manifested in real ways, like her having a panic attack, and then in these fantastical ways, like with this evil clone of her that's literally kind of like chasing her down, berating her,
battling,
right?
Yeah.
And like sometimes she's just like being mean, other times she's actually trying to kill you and stuff. And it's like Super Meat Boy, though. It's like that thing where when you fail, you're right back to where you were, like on that screen. You can kind of just keep going at it. So it's, failure is always just kind of one step closer to success. And it's just a very satisfying experience.
And it feels like you're always really making progress. It is Super Meat Boy in that the levels are contained, and you can usually see the beginning and the end at the same time. Not always, but usually. So you know where you need to go to get past the obstacle that is right in front of you, and all of the midpoint obstacles that are in the way until you get to that point. But then, like as you do get to the next screen, it does feel like this nice continuation in a way that like Meat Boy wasn't, where it was those self-contained levels one by one. This just makes it feel like you're just continuing down this path, continuing climbing this mountain, which is the entire conceit of the game. And it just adds this sense of propulsion to everything you're doing that kind of keeps you going. And even when you get past this really hard point, and then the next part's even harder, you're like, well, I got through this, and I'm still progressing. I'm still working my way up. It's a really great way to build a game that is as hard as this is, because it's going to keep most people going, I think.
There's pretty much something wrong with it. Plus, it's really neat how just getting through the game is challenging enough, but then there's these kind of They add challenges to the game that don't make you feel like you didn't beat it, like getting all the strawberries that are through the levels. Like that's way harder than just getting through the levels. Getting through the level, like collecting those. Then there's also like these items that unlock like harder levels based in that world, like the B side. Like beating those is a whole nother level of challenge. And then there's even C sides, right? So again, you could beat the game, and there's still so much to do to master with it.
Yep. All right. I think we've now fully talked about every game that we've at least had on the list at some point. So
it's our most painless game of the year yet.
Yeah, I think so. So now we can actually do the top 10 and get out of here. So let's do this now. So at number 10, it was Eco. 9, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Number 8 is Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. 7 is Astrobot. Number 6 is Red Dead Redemption 2. 5 is God of War. 4 is Marvel's Spider-Man. 3, Battletech. 2 is Dead Cells, and then Game of the Year is Celeste. I'm actually really proud that we could say that, because I feel really good about that one.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that the one year I would have maybe been okay with God of War being on Call of Duty being on the list at all of the year. Dean was like, Call of Duty this year, not.
He's got it on like every other year, so yeah, it's ironic.
Warfare, he was real big into that one. But,
I would have like had some arguments against this one. Still, I do think the Battle Royale is not as good as everyone thinks, and I think that the evidence is that most people aren't playing it anymore. But yeah, we didn't have to talk about it. It's not on the list. Okay, so yeah, that does it for 2018. I think we can wrap that up. Thank you everybody for listening or watching or for reading the site. Whatever, anything you guys do that kind of interacts with us, we really appreciate all of that. So until 2019, have a good one. Have safe holidays, safe New Year, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Bye.